Okay, so this is going to be our last podcast in the ecology unit. It's going to be on changes in ecosystems and ecological succession. So let's get started. Let's start with the definition. So we got natural gradual changes in the types of species that live in an area can be primary or secondary. So that means succession can be primary or secondary. The gradual replacement of one plant community by another through natural processes over time is kind of like a second definition for succession.
Alright guys, this is primary succession. It begins in a place without any soil. So this could be on the sides of volcanoes. It could happen after landslides or flooding occurs. It starts with the arrival of living things such as lichens that do not need soil to survive. We call these the pioneer species. They're the first ones to arrive. Okay, and this is just showing you pictures of these lichens.
Okay, so primary succession is when soil starts to form as lichens and the forces of weather and erosion help to break down rocks into smaller pieces. When these lichens die, they're going to decompose, adding small amounts of organic matter to the rock to make soil. This is all part of how the area is going to rebuild itself. That's just a picture showing an example of it, an area of succession.
Okay, and this is just showing you simple plants like mosses and ferns that can grow in new soil. And as you can tell, guys, this does not happen over a week's time. This takes a very long time.
Okay, so some more primary succession. The simple plants that originally grow in the area will die, adding more organic material. The soil layer will then thicken, and grasses and wildflowers and other plants are going to begin to take over.
Okay, and then as these plants die, they're going to add more nutrients to the soil, and then our shrubs and trees will begin to survive.
Okay, so then once the shrubs and trees start to survive, insects, small birds, and mammals are going to begin to move in. And then what once was bare rock now is going to support a variety of life.
Okay, we're going to move into secondary succession. So it begins in a place that already has soil and was once the home of living organisms. It occurs faster and has different pioneer species than the primary succession. So for example, it's after a forest fire or something like that.
Okay, so this is just showing you a diagram of what secondary succession is going to look like. So this is what you might have after a forest fire. And then it's going to show you over time as it's going to rebuild itself. Another picture, okay, and it shows you here, it says years after cultivation. You've got annual weeds starting out here 1 year after the cultivation. 2 to 4 years after, you're going to have annual and perennial weeds. 5 to 15 years after cultivation, you're going to have pine seedlings and saplings. 25 to 50 years after the time, you're going to have a young pine forest, so young pine trees. And then 150 years later, you'll have a mature hardwood forest.
All right, and this is just showing you again, this is showing you a beach. You've got your ford dune community here, which is your grass. You've got your shrub community, your pine woods, your oak woods, and your beech maple forest.
Okay, so then the last thing that we're going to talk about is a climax community. And basically what that is, it's going to be that end result. It's the stable group of plants and animals that's the end result of the succession process. So succession has happened, primary, secondary succession. We're back to a working, living community. And now that stable group of plants and animals that live there are going to be considered the climax community. And remember, it doesn't always have to mean big trees. It depends on the actual environment that it's happened in. So it can be grasses and prairies. If it's a desert, it could be cacti living in the desert. Just depending on what the community is or what the environment is. It basically is just talking about that stable, successful group of plants and animals that have happened at the end of the succession process.
All right, guys, and just remember, when we talk about succession, if an ecosystem it does become unbalanced due to flooding or a landslide or some type of igneous activity, it is going to try to balance itself back out until it is stable.
Okay, guys, that was your last podcast for our ecology unit. Make sure that you've taken notes and ask us any questions in class. We'll see you there.